که از کی وقتشی واسه
Hello, Professor.
Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm excited today because we have the YWCA presenting. So I want to introduce Jennifer, who I made the co-host, and she's going to be leading us on consent, sexual assault, um, hopefully talk a little bit about the rape culture in college. Um, but take notes. This will be your opportunity to ask some questions. There may be an assignment attached to it. There may or may not be an assignment attached to it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Jennifer go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. Also, thank you for playing that music. That was super cool. I actually love lo-fi so much. So as we talked about as your professor mentioned that we will be talking about like safe bystander, we will also be talking about consent. Um, Let me pull up the other slide deck real quick because I'm realizing the one that I have right now does not have rape culture, but we do have one that has that. But in the meantime, take 2 more minutes to just grab your water, get comfortable, as well as maybe grab a snack if this is a time that you feel like you might get a little hungry, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Because we want to make sure that you can take care of yourself as we talk today. Now, today I won't ask for, or I won't require participation, but I will ask for participation. I think in a topic this serious as well as important, it does require a lot of collaboration, because, I am human, and although I'm the facilitator, I am not all knowing. I don't know 100% of every single thing. And because we have so many minds here, very smart, intellectual people, we can come together to really expand on this topic that we all have at least some kind of understanding in. So while I pull up that slide deck, please take the time to grab what you need to take care of yourself during this time. Give me 1 second. So I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen. And before we get into today's topic, where I will introduce myself and the YWCA. Let me see, sorry. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you so much. So just like that, I appreciate when people can unmute themselves so that way I can hear everyone. It makes communication and conversation go by a lot faster and smoother, but you're also welcome to use the chat box. Now, again, my name is Jennifer. My pronouns are she, her, and then I am the Community Outreach and Engagement Coordinator from YWCA Golden Gate, Silicon Valley. Let's see, continuing on, our agency's mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. Now, I know this mission seems very vague, but we do a lot of like education around prevention education, like bringing awareness to what domestic violence is, what sexual assault is, as well as what human trafficking is. We work with survivors of DVSA and HT, what I just mentioned, through different resources that we have, such as support services, our prevention and education, and our healing center. So, in our support services, we have legal services that include providing legal information, support with signing paperwork, restraining order applications, immigration services, as well as court accompaniment. We also have confidential emergency shelter, which is a temporary stay up to 30 days. I know during the pandemic, we extended that stay just to provide extra support for those who were there. We also have therapy and support groups in our emergency shelter, as well as financial skill training and rental assistance. Our childcare centers, we have 3 locations here in San Jose, which you should be able to find on our website, yourywca.org. And then, of course, we have our 24 hours, 7 days a week support line, which I'll show in the next screen, as well as our walk-in services downtown San Jose. In our social justice team, again, we do prevention education in both schools as well as in the larger community, bringing awareness to all these different topics to remind people what their rights are to safety, as well as understand how to help and support our community. And then in our healing center, we have both individual and group counseling services. In our group services, this is free support. You would just access or inquire through our support line. And then our individual, we have this on a sliding scale based on how much income someone has. Now, we never want to turn anyone away just because they can't afford services. So this is why we do it on a sliding scale. So all our support groups, other than that, are free of cost. Again, it's only the individual counseling therapy sessions that are on a sliding scale. If you have any questions, feel free to call our 24-hour support line here on screen. Again, we're going to be talking about safe bystander engagement and how it relates to sexual assault, consent, and rape culture. So our goals today are to really dive into these topics, bring awareness to, or even like expand our knowledge. Now, again, I am one person who has gone through training, but I believe that we can expand our knowledge and help each other grow through these different conversations as well as difficult conversations. Now, I understand that today's topic might be a little uncomfortable. It might make you feel a little triggered, and that is completely understandable. Today, we're going to be talking about sexual assault. We're going to be mentioning rape and murder, as well as rape culture, how violence is perpetuated through this culture. So make sure to really take care of yourself. Again, get that glass of water. If you need to use a bathroom, please cater to those needs. You're welcome to eat snacks, and I am comfortable with anybody and everybody leaving their cameras off, whatever makes you feel most comfortable to process this information. And I know this is like a class setting, so if you feel like you need to step out of the class, please let your professor know. I believe you know your rules most with this class. And if anything, I will be here for one-on-one if anyone has any direct questions or need any additional support. But if you need immediate support, this number is on the screen for you to utilize to talk to a confidential advocate there. Now, getting started, we're gonna go straight into talking about Kitty Genovese. By like saying out loud or like using the chat box, can somebody tell me if they know about who Kitty Genovese is? Who is Kitty Genovese? And if you don't know, maybe just putting no, never heard, know a little bit, things like that. Very helpful to gauge where everyone's at.
I know that her case is related to the bystander syndrome in psychology because a lot of people witnessed her murder, but then nobody did anything. Like there were at least 20 witnesses. Is that correct?
Yeah, maybe like a few details, but we'll go ahead and dive into that for those who haven't heard. Thank you for opening us up with that. So Kitty Genovese was a 28-year-old woman who was walking home from work around 2:30. She parked her car in like her apartment lot and then was like walking to the front of her building. As she was walking to her building, she noticed that a man was following her. Again, this story relates to murder and rape. So when she noticed him, he quickly approached her and then began to like stab her with a knife. And there was this time where it was going by for about like 30 minutes where she was yelling, screaming for help. There may have been a few times where someone might have said, hey, leave that girl alone. But even though like that was one thing that was said about the situation, she still screamed for help and no one actually came to her help to cater to her needs at that time. So in the situation in 1964, an old time, right? She actually ended up passing away. She died. And I believe maybe in the process of her, like, not, she hasn't fully passed away, he also raped her during this time. So as someone said, there were about 38 witnesses there who saw the situation take place where and heard her screams for help around 2:30 a.m. and no one showed up to her help until 4 a.m. when she had already died. Now, like what someone was saying, this led to further understanding of what the bystander effect is. So it led a lot of questions. If there were so many people there, how come no one came to help? Give me 1 second. So, bystander effect. It's this idea that the greater number of people who are there present witnessing a situation, it's less likely that someone will actually help. And it makes you question, like, why is it? So we're gonna watch this short little video. Are you a bystander? It's by the Science of Empathy, and you can find this on YouTube if this is something you're interested in looking at again later or showing to other people. Let me know if you can hear my audio because I know sometimes it can get a little wonky.
If a stranger needed help, how long would it take you to offer them a hand? According to psychology, the answer to that question may depend less on who you are as a person and more on how many people are with you at the time. In a strange paradox of human nature, the more people there are in a group, the less likely anyone is to offer help. It's called the bystander effect, and it may be a roadblock that's keeping you from showing empathy. When someone is in need, people in large groups tend to feel that they don't need to do anything because someone else will take care of it. This is known as the diffusion of responsibility. The end result is nobody does anything. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you. We started with a large group of 10 people and told them they were here today to see a product demonstration. So we're just basically looking for emotional reactions to certain products. We're not quite ready to go yet. So as you can see, you have these surveys. Go ahead, start filling them out. Take all the time you need with them. I am gonna go get the product and just kind of start throwing it together, and then we're gonna begin. Sound good, everyone?
Okay.
Cool, thanks. Here's the thing though. Everybody but one of these people wasn't in on it. We gave her a 10-minute window where she could offer to help. Let's see if she comes to my rescue. We repeated this a few more times with varying results. Come on. That didn't sound good. Ugh. Next, we tried it with a group of 5. Oh, jeez. Do you think you're allowed to do that? So far, it's not looking good for people in general. Are we just plain unhelpful, or is there something to the bystander effect? To find out, let's see how helpful people are when they're all by themselves.
Hi.
The results? With our group of 10 people, it took our participants an average of 8 minutes and 1 second before they lent a hand. Excuse me, thank you.
Can I help? I just feel
Thanks.
bad.
Participants in our groups of 5 were a little quicker, saving me from the tent with an average time of 7 minutes and 25 seconds. I'm okay.
Do you need help?
Do you want to give me a hand?
Yeah.
That'd be great, thank you.
What can I do?
But when our participants were by themselves, that is when they really shined. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. On average, they offered to step in just 3 minutes and 19 seconds. You were the fastest by a country mile. I have set this thing up by myself 7 times today.
That makes me sad.
You took a total of 12 seconds. Why do you think you were so quick to do it?
I like to help in any way that I can.
That's the funny thing about the bystander effect. You would think that a group with more people would mean there's a higher chance someone would do something. But people in a group are actually less likely to help.
I knew I should have just stood up and done it, but then a big part of me wanted to see what these people would do, and I was just kind of like, are any of them gonna help?
At first, I was a little shy to jump in and help, but then after a while, just like, I'm just gonna jump in and help.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Sorry it took 8 minutes.
When it's just the two of us in a space, there's like a bond that's created that's like, well, I'm not gonna let you struggle on your own. And I think if there is a group of people, it's way more acceptable for me to be doing that.
It's the diffusion of responsibility.
I think that's totally true.
If something is saying jump in and offer to help, just follow that intuition. Even if no one else is saying anything, just, hey, if you can be a part of helping someone, instead of just watching them struggle, or even take out your cell phone and like tape it or something like that, which is the worst, just offer some help.
So, now that you know about the bystander effect, ask yourself, how often do you feel like you should help someone, but don't, because you think somebody else will do it? Maybe next time, you will be that somebody.
So pancake.
All right. So what are some thoughts we had around that video? Would you help if you were in that situation where you see someone struggling? How would you help? Like, would you say something? Would you ask someone? Would you go up and ask, hey, can I help you? What do we think?
To be honest, if I was in a group of multiple people, I would also kind of just wait and see if anybody else would help. And if it was just in a room alone with somebody, I would jump in. So, I mean, I can kind of see that.
Thank you. Anyone
Yeah,
else like to say?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of embarrassing, I guess, if someone else is not asking and you want to be like the helper. I don't know. If there's a lot of people, you're like,
Definitely. Any other thoughts? Or how about, why do we think we might not help? I know, Kiara, you were just saying that it can be embarrassing. Why else? One of the reasons that we talked about just earlier in that bystander effect definition, right, is the diffusion of responsibility. More people are there. Maybe I'm expecting someone else to help. Why else?
If we don't understand the parameters of the situation, we just kind of, mind our own business. I think we're kind of wired to do that, just not really engage unless we really know what's going on. And then from there, we make the decision of whether we should help or not. At least that's what I think.
Yeah. So it can kind of depend on like the situation, right? We don't exactly know what's going on. We feel like we might need some of the details before we decide what to do. Audrey was saying there might be a potential danger too. Some other reasons might involve not wanting to get involved, thinking like it's not my business, like I don't want to get involved because like what if they don't need my help, right? We have all these different thoughts. Fear of embarrassment. Maybe we're scared we're gonna get hurt ourselves because like it looks scary, it sounds scary, this sounds like things are happening that we don't know how to handle. Not realizing the impact, like what we were saying. And then a lot of times people just might not exactly know what to do. Now we see this a lot in like things when it comes to the culture in college, right? Whether it's like the different relationships, the dating scene, it can be like fraternities and sororities when we're a part of like these large groups, and like the cultures of like hazing and rushing have been so normalized. It's been like a thing for a long time. It's like, why would I want to step in? No one else is saying anything. This is just a thing that just happens, right? As well as like the norms of like how people view one another in not just college, but like in the culture and society of like what a man and what a woman is supposed to be like, the marginalization of marginalized people, right? So earlier we talked about sexual assault, and this is something that we will be talking about when we talk about Chanel Miller as well. But I want to put a definition to it before we get into that a little further. So what sexual assault is an umbrella term that refers to sexual activity that's done without someone's explicit consent. Now, a lot of times people use the term sexual assault instead of like naming the specific assault that was done. But it's important that we really know that this is a vague term, and it again does not describe what was actually done. I think like when we're describing harm, the harm that was done, it's important to be specific. But again, like giving these trigger warnings because it can make people uncomfortable. And we want to put it on everyone's radar, like, hey, I'm going to be talking about something that might be either triggering or uncomfortable. And I want to make sure that you are there and have the capacity to hear this from me. So this is something that can happen to people of all genders and all identities. I feel like when it comes to media, right, a lot of people cater the message towards a certain population, a certain community, when it can happen to other a lot of different people. And you don't have to be a specific ethnicity, you don't have to be a specific gender to experience this the most. When it comes to statistics, like it says here, a source from National Institute of Justice, we see that although the message often caters to women who are being victimized, it can also happen to men, but also there's a lot of like disproportionate numbers around LGBTQ as well as BIPOC, right? A lot of these numbers that we're looking at or statistics that we might look at only caters to what is actually reported. So when we analyze what statistics are trying to tell us, we only know what people are comfortable or willing to share. A lot of these numbers of like how many incidents actually happen, as well as who it's happening to, go underreported because of all these victim blaming comments that happen, as well as like the normalization of sexual violence, which we'll get into as we talk about rape culture. Now, when it comes to all these different violent acts, sexual violent acts, is that it's all done without explicit consent. So to understand that, we need to also understand what consent is. So the legal definition is positive cooperation, an act or attitude pursuant to an exercise of free will, where someone can act freely and voluntarily, and any dating or marital relationship shall not be sufficient to constitute consent. Additional to that is that someone has to be at least 18 years old, and this is just to protect those who are under 18 from those who are older than 18, taking advantage of youth and their developing process. They have to be at least coherent or they have to also be coherent or sober. So this is just to make sure that everyone can have the full understanding of what is going on around them. Now, this specifically caters to if someone is under the influence of any drugs or alcohol, for the reason being that, let's say like a little bit of alcohol doesn't affect you at all, while a little bit, the same amount of alcohol might affect someone a lot, right? So we all have different tolerances, we all have different just tolerances, where it's important that we recognize that our bodies are different and we all handle substances differently. So the reason why we want to make sure that someone is sober is so that we can have a clear understanding that this is a sober decision that someone was making, and they weren't influenced while under the influence, because someone might do things differently if they were sober compared to if they were under the influence. Sorry, I said that a lot. Okay, and then this last piece, someone does have to have the mental capacity. So having the understanding of what is going to happen before, what is going to happen during, as well as what's going to happen after, the full understanding, and be able to understand that process for what it is. Now, when we talk about like coherency in terms of like drugs and alcohol, something that we want to think about is also, can this person communicate clearly? Are they coherent enough to understand and remember that this is happening? Are they sober enough to know what's going on and make the sober decisions? Is this something they actually want to do, or are they feeling like they're in the moment? They're feeling like the substances are affecting them differently compared to how they are sober, right? So overall, consent is clear and coherent, where someone has the understanding of what is going to happen. It is an ongoing conversation where the people involved are checking in with each other, saying things like, hey, is this something you want to do? Are you still having fun? Is there anything else you want to do? Is there anything you're willing to try? And it's also willing, right? So saying that you actually want to do this, no one is forced or pressured into doing this. No one is manipulated. They're doing this out of their own free will, like in that legal definition. And in this last one, consent is enthusiastic. So I don't expect anyone to be this like high energy and super enthusiastic all the time, but definitely where there's no hesitation in your answer. Kind of like when you give someone a big hug, right? When you're willing to give someone a hug, your arms are going to be wide open. Maybe you have a smile on your face. Your body language says a lot. Versus if you're not too comfortable, maybe you're going to have like little dinosaur arms and you're just like, oh, hi. And it's like a quick tap and it doesn't feel very warm, but you can tell someone is uncomfortable in that situation. So it's important that we not only read the words that someone is actually trying to tell us, as well as like pay attention to someone's tone, but it's also important to understand like where is someone's mental capacity and emotional capacity in this situation. Do they feel comfortable? Is this something they actually want to do? Or is this something they feel like they have to do, right? Consent is all of these things, and if any one of them is missing, it is no longer considered consent. Now, earlier I mentioned rape culture and how it can really perpetuate violence, and a big piece of rape culture is the normalization of sexual violence. Now, is this something that we see often in our lives? Is this something that we've had conversations about with other people, whether it's our friends, our family, at least one other person? Actual question. Maybe a yes, no, a little bit, thoroughly, yeah. So far I see no's. Thank you for those answers. What about everyone else? And if you're reacting on the Zoom reactions, I can't really see it. The chat box would probably be the best. We know it exists, but we don't talk about it openly. Thank you. I see a lot of no's. Okay, for sure. So we're gonna get a chance to talk about it here. So because these are things that we don't talk about, it's important that we can actually engage in conversation, to ask questions, make comments, to really like bring forth like what do we actually know? What do we like see but don't fully acknowledge, right? So keep coming with all these answers because it really does help with dialogue. So again, like I was saying, it's the normalization. So we see this through sexism. We see this through jokes. There was a situation where someone was about to take a test, and the way they phrased the that they were gonna pass the test, they like slammed open the door and said, "I'm gonna rape that test." Now, when we think about like these jokes, maybe like when we were younger, or maybe even recently, you've probably heard something similar to that and laughed because like you know what they mean, but you know that they don't mean it to that extent of what they're actually legitimately saying. But when we talk about being trauma informed and we use that kind of language, we have to think maybe, or has someone in this room probably gone through that situation, and I'm here making a joke about it when I mean something completely different. We also have a part of rape culture, we have objectifying people's bodies, men, women, non-binary people. We see this in media and we see this in advertisements, and I'll have a few examples in the next slide after this. but we also see it in trivializing comments where we excuse people's behaviors. Phrases like boys will be boys when they're being reckless or they're being harmful, right? But when it comes to harm and putting other people at risk, we want to make sure that we're keeping people who are responsible accountable for their actions. And then again, like I was saying earlier, these victim blaming comments that hold people back from really voicing that they've gone through these different experiences, restricting them from getting the support that they need, blaming them on what they're wearing, blaming them on what they were doing, as well as like when they're out and who they're out with. But again, the only person who is responsible for the harm done is a person who's actually doing the harm. Now, when I said we see this in media and we see this in advertisements, here are a few. You can find this on Impact's and Instagram. I follow them, where this conservative school wanted to like go through all the pictures to make sure that like nothing quote unquote inappropriate was showing, and they try to do a really bad edit on the school photos, as we can see here, when we barely even see anything with this person. Grand Theft Auto 5, who has heard of this game? This is a more recent game, but the other games are different compared to this. One person has, another person. Can someone unmute or type in the chat box, what is different about this game? What is the point of this game? What happens in this game? What happens?
Just violence and sex, I guess. I don't know. I think my siblings play one of it.
Mm-hmm. Violence, there's sex. Let me see. Escaping authority, sexualization, breaking the law. Yeah. So one of the big points of this game is to be like the best criminal of the game, right? Where you can like steal people's cars. I think you can fight people. I don't remember too much, but I know in the recent change that they've made to this game in the 5 is that you can now play in first person. Another thing that has changed is that you can pick up prostitutes on the street, and you can also, at the end of having sex with them, you can choose to kill them or set them free. Now we're seeing this in first person, and although it is rated R, meaning like I believe it's 17 or 18, right? That you have to be in order to purchase the game. Not everyone is actually of age to play that. Even sometimes we see younger people playing these games, right? So, and I think, I don't know about y'all, but I know people who are at least like 8 years old, and maybe even like 10, 12 years old playing these games. And so when we think about like how much access youth have to accessing games or even like movies and things on the internet that include violence, we have to think about like, what are they thinking? How are they processing this information? We excuse that, oh, they're so young, they're not going to understand. It's just a game, it's just a movie. They're not going to take it that seriously. But when we have that kind of mindset, we're normalizing this violence instead of like taking it as a learning opportunity to say, hey, although this is here in the media, this is meant for entertainment. We need to understand the seriousness of what this is to really make sure that it's used as an example of harm and not as a way to lead into harm. This is a museum, I don't remember where, but they displayed the clothes of sexual assault survivors and what they were like wearing on the time of their sexual assault. So when we go left to right, we see a pair of normal clothes, we see work clothes, we see a cheerleading outfit, high school cheerleading outfit, a pair of swim trunks, and then a prom dress, all normal things in different situations. And as we notice, like, although women are specifically targeted, it's also important to acknowledge that this happens to men and non-binary people as well in the different situations. Yes. And then even in this one, we see a military outfit. And although our country likes to say like we have this high respect for our soldiers, there's things going on that's not talked about. And if it's not talked about, how do we know that people we're supposed to honor are actually getting the support they need, and the people who are causing harm are actually being held accountable? In this Burger King advertisement, I don't know how old this is, but I know it's been here for a while. We see what is it? They're advertising this sandwich that's going on with the caption, "It'll blow your mind away." It'll blow in big caption, right? With this woman with her lips open, and it kind of implies something, right? And in this last one, we see 2 banana Halloween costumes, where one looks like a normal banana, might imply something, who knows? But then there's this other one that's meant to be for like females, but it looks like it's meant to undress and like make someone think about what she looks like underneath that banana peel instead. So really sexualizing people's bodies, normalizing sexism, and relating everything to sex, where it's like dominating, it's having some kind of dominance over another person's body. So when it comes to like people causing harm, and as we talk about safe bystander in this next slide, it's also important that we really emphasize that causing harm is a way that someone uses to gain control, because maybe they've gone through something in their life, right? We are all human, we all have human experiences, but that is never an excuse to ever cause harm to another person. Now, we're not perfect. We all do something wrong sometimes, but that is also not an excuse to say, oh, because you did me wrong, I'm going to do this to you, right? Abuse and harm is a choice that someone makes. And it's not this is something that it's not something that someone inherits. It's a learned behavior that someone chooses to do. And just like rape culture, like maybe it's like a normalized thing in their life, but that still doesn't excuse that the harm was done. So it's never the survivor's fault in the situation. It is always going to be the person who did the harm. Now, Title IX is here to support people going to school, federally funded schools, to really investigate and help the person who was harmed to be able to continue to go to school and continue the education, because that's the right that every person has. You should also be able to access your Title IX office through your school website, or you can talk to someone there in office to ask for resources. Another one here is another sexual assault survivors card. You're welcome to scan this QR code to know the rights that we also see here on the left side, but also to know where to go. Now, I think this specifically talks about Santa Clara County as well as in Stanford, but you can also go, there are other resources like San Mateo and Monterey that you can access for resources. Now, you might not need this right now, but it might come in handy when, I don't know, maybe you meet someone who was asking for resources, whether for themselves or someone else they know. Now, carrying on, bystander behavior is not neutral behavior, and this is something we've definitely learned, if not before, in the last couple of years at least. The reason why is because even though like we didn't want to get involved, even though we didn't want to be embarrassed, we had our reasonings, which is understandable, the harm still continues to happen. And we end up in this cycle of no one wanted to help, so it's going to happen. No one wanted to help, so it's going to happen. And if we keep doing this, then this is exactly how the harm keeps coming. When it comes to true accountability, it's actually having the awareness of what is going on, how it's unjust, and then taking the actual responsibility to say, I'm going to do something to interrupt this harm. And it doesn't have to be as like a big revolution of something happening, but it can be as little as asking someone, hey, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to support you as you go through this process? You might have heard of Chanel Miller. This is an incident that happened in 2018. If you've heard of the story, put yes or no in the chat box, or even kind of, as I continue to talk about it. So in 2015, there was this party that was happening on campus. Chanel Miller didn't go there, but she has a sister that went there, so she wanted to accompany her sister. And later on, around midnight, she was being raped by a man named Brock Turner who went to that school, behind these dumpsters in the dark alleyway. And these two grad students were riding their bikes and they were passing. They noticed something in the dark, but they weren't too sure, but they did see movement. So they screamed and said, "Hey." And once Brock Turner noticed that he was caught, he tried to get up really fast and started running away. These two men, one person ran up to Chanel to like stay with her, make sure she's okay, while the other person ran after Brock Turner, tackled him to the ground, and held him down until campus police came to help take care of the situation. So, something that we can learn from the bystanders, that Chanel Miller will also talk about in this following video, is that sometimes we don't have enough time to think about what can we do, what are we going to do. Sometimes it just takes action. And another thing that's really important when it comes to helping someone when you see a situation happening is also making sure that that person in that situation is also being taken care of. So we're gonna quickly watch this video to see what Chanel Miller had to say and her response to how these people helped her in the situation.
It's so unbelievable to me, the clarity of mind that they had to jump into action, to not only tackle him and pin him to the ground, but they were speaking to him, saying, "What the F are you doing? Do you think this is okay?" Apologize to her. They wanted to make sure I was being taken care of. And I think for me, on the same night where one of the most terrible things happened, this miracle happened, which is that I was saved. And so as I went through the trial and I was stuck in sort of the darker parts and really down on myself, I still had this hope that there are people out there who want me to get better, who are doing the right thing. And I just have to keep following that part. And that's how I'm going to get out on the other side. I mean, if there's guys like that that exist in this world, why do we lower our expectations? Yeah. Thank you. We don't need to make excuses for predators. We don't need to make excuses for people who don't know how to treat another person decently, who don't know right from wrong, because there are people sitting here who do.
Wow.
Is this a celebration?
So when she said we don't need to make excuses, unfortunately in her situation, lawyers Brock Turner's lawyers did make excuses, or I believe it was his father, where he was saying like, "Oh, he's such a good kid. He's an athlete. Like, please don't ruin his future." When Brock Turner was the one who ruined her future and has to deal with the trauma that she was left with from him. So again, the only person responsible is the person causing the harm, and we need to keep people who do harm accountable for their actions. Now, it's important that we recognize that although the law is here to like really take legal action around it, it's community accountability, which is going to be the foundation of what we do in this community, because of the way we can do this is really interrupting the harmful attitudes and behaviors, like the ideas around rape culture, normalizing this behavior, as well as making jokes out of something that is not funny. So in order to interrupt this behavior, even like prevent someone from potentially being like this, it's speaking up before something happens, speaking up before someone takes action, and actually interrupting that harm when we start to see it. Even if it's just them making a comment, saying something is better than not saying anything and allowing the next thing to happen. Now, to be a proactive bystander in any situation, whether it's an actual violent thing that's happening in front of you or a conversation that can be harmful to either you or the people around you. It's important to, again, be aware of what the injustice is, what is happening in the situation. Is this something that you personally feel like you can feel safe getting involved in? Are there other people who can help you get involved as well? And how can you help care for the person who needs help? And then the next thing is take responsibility. And we're going to go over these. And it's the 5 Ds that I received training from I Hollaback Girl, now known as Right to Be. It's take direct action, distract, delegate, document, or delay. When it comes to direct, it's exactly what we hear, right? Taking the direct response to something, naming the inappropriate behavior, or confronting the person causing the harm. As we see on here, it's important to really use your judgment. Now, again, asking yourself, is this something I feel like I can feel safe doing? Is this something I'm capable of doing, taking direct action? And if you're talking to someone directly about the harm they're causing, it's best to keep the conversation brief, because a lot of people who are in a heated situation, they want to dominate the situation, right? So they want to assert their dominance, and they want to argue the way out of it to reason with you, when we don't need reasoning, we need the harm to stop. The next one is just to distract. Now, this is derailing from the incident by interrupting it. Now, you can use creative methods. There was a situation where there was a fight at school and everyone was circled up, right? Anything that you can probably typically think of when it comes to school fights. One kid saw the fight happening and they decided to take a bag of Skittles, throw the Skittles up in the air, and instead taste the rainbow, and it went flying everywhere. And then it kind of everyone was kind of shocked or surprised by it. So they were like, what the heck? And the fight kind of just dispersed and the fight stopped. Now, what's important about the distract situation or method is that although it might help start the harm from happening in that moment, it doesn't necessarily address the situation at hand, as well as not interrupt the after effects of the situation. The next one is delegate. So really utilizing the people around you to help you in the situation. So if you're at a club, maybe you can ask a bouncer. If you're at the mall, maybe you can ask security. If it's at school, maybe you can ask one of the staff, right? So really asking people to help you in the situation if you don't feel comfortable doing it alone, or you think you need someone else in support for this person. Then we have document. Now, this is something that you might have remembered from the very first video that I showed you, where this guy was recording, and maybe in that situation where you're trying to embarrass someone, you don't want to record them, right? But in a situation where something is happening, documentation can be very important for proof. Now, again, in the legal system, they're going to ask for proof just to actually try to take care of the situation, and they try to use hard evidence to actually help that situation. Now, something I learned in school is that everyone nowadays with their phones are basically their own little journalists, because they're in a situation to witness and tell these stories of what happened. A part of consent, we want to make sure that we actually get the consent from the person who's being harmed in the situation, and asking them what they want to do with it. I know we see a lot of people on TikTok, Instagram, and so posting these situations that they see. But again, that kind of violates the person's consent in that situation. We want to ask them, what would you like to do with this? And if this is something they don't want to do anything with, to delete it or send it to them and then delete it, because it can be used to them. And we want to make sure that we are survivor centered and take lead from what they are going through. And then this is the last one, and it's delay. So this is something that I personally feel most comfortable with, just because I'm someone who is still managing confrontation, right? Trying to take things head on. But for now, this is what I'll settle for. Not settle, but really choose is approaching a situation after the fact it happened. So let's say like a conversation was happening in a group of people and one person was being like singled out, whether it was being called out for their identity, or maybe someone was embarrassing them from like telling the group about an embarrassing story. If you don't feel comfortable in the moment to say something, taking that direct approach, you can talk to that person after that conversation had finished, and just, or pull them aside and say, hey, are you okay? Like, I heard what happened to you. Like, how can I support you in this situation? So by doing this approach, it really validates someone's feelings and understanding that what was happening to me right in this moment was not okay. Someone hears me, someone sees that I am not okay, and they're coming to my aid. Now, it might sound like it's not doing much, but just offering and showing care for someone in this situation can go a long way, and can really help like empower someone to speak up for themselves. Now, I know we only have a few more minutes, but we're going to try to practice a little bit. I'm going to ask people to put it in the chat box what they would do in this situation. And here's a little reminder of what those options were. So for this first scenario, you're at a house party and you see someone who seems uncomfortable with another person trying to talk to them. What would you do in this situation? Would you take direct approach by telling that person to leave them alone? Would you distract the situation by trying to start a separate conversation with the person who feels uncomfortable to try to like pull them away from that other person? Would you delegate, so asking the owner of the house to tell the other person to leave them alone? Or would you delay, so finding the person later on who feels uncomfortable to see if they're okay and asking for them, ask how you can support them? I see a lot of distract situations. Someone also offered to pretend to be their friend and take them away. I believe it. Spill a drink, right? Yeah, maybe you can like maybe not directly like talk to the group or the two people in that situation, but causing like some kind of incident where people like will try to like find an opportunity to leave that situation. Thank you everyone for those responses. Distract seems super popular, and I think if I'm at a house party, yeah, I'll probably do the same. Oh yeah, document. Sorry about that. But yeah, this is something that you can probably do. Might not be the best in this situation, but it's definitely still an option as long as you get consent from that person and checking in, letting them know that you did that. Let's do one more scenario. Okay, you're at work and you overhear a conversation where someone is making sexual comments about someone who is not in the room. Now, again, use your judgment. What would you do in this situation? Would you tell that person to stop making those comments? Start a completely new conversation? Inform your supervisor of what you heard and ask them to talk to the person who made those sexual comments? Talk to the commenter later at a later time to express how inappropriate or harmful those comments were? Or would you write notes about the conversation you heard and who was involved and share it with the supervisor? A and E, A and C, C, E, C. Yeah, great answers. E, document, awesome. So it sounds like we all like have an idea of what we would do in the situation, and that's really important, right? As we think about like all these different situations that we witness, no matter how uncomfortable or awkward it might be, there's always something that we can do, and it doesn't always have to be direct. Do whatever makes you feel most comfortable as well as safe. Whatever you feel like you're capable of doing, do that. Because again, bystander behavior is not neutral behavior. We have to do something if we want to interrupt the harm. We have to do something if we want to make sure that the person in that situation is gonna be okay. And at very least, validating that this was wrong for them to go through this and this was not okay. So we're gonna skip through these situations. This last one is to really continue the care. So the harm and the impact of the harm does not stop at the incident that took place. So now that you've like figured out what you can do to get that person out of the situation, how can we support this person continuing on after the situation? Because things like trauma that happen, things of like feeling like a low self-esteem because maybe like someone called them out for something related to their identity. Maybe someone was embarrassing them in front of a lot of people, or maybe someone was invalidating their feelings. We want to be there as a support by actually validating those feelings of this injustice that happened to them. So this is from Chanel Miller that she said in that interview with Trevor, where she said, your character is not what caused your hurts to happen. She also goes on to say, as you go through this process, you will find people who will try to intimidate you, who will scare you into silence, people who want to humiliate you and tell you that you are crazy and that you are small. But you are not crazy and you are not small. Know your truth, hold on to that truth, and it will carry you where you need to go. So a lot of this takes a lot of honesty, whether you're the person witnessing or you're the person experiencing, being honest about how you're feeling, what you're going through, but also what needs to happen. Taking on that responsibility to make sure that we interrupt that harm so that harm does not continue to happen in our community, because we all want a safer community where we can have our kids play in the street again, where people can feel safe opening up about the scary incidents that happen to them. So it's important that we listen, believe, and empower survivors or people in situations of harm to take lead of how they want their healing journey to go. We need to take a stand and say something and not just let it happen. We also need to share resources because it doesn't stop at just us. Maybe they want to outsource, and really build a community, right? So acknowledge what your bias is and really challenge the law, really. And like, what can we do as a community to support our community and be accountable? So we are towards the end of the presentation. We're a little 2 minutes over, but I do want to make sure to promote our Instagram page, T Club SV, as well as your YWCA. So T Club SV is Teens Ending Abuse Club, where we show like our youth who participate in our programs, but we also promote a lot of healthy content about like healthy and unhealthy relationships and what we might be doing in the department. And here are other resources that are very good to learn from, like Right to Be that I mentioned about the bystander intervention methods. And if you know anyone who is experiencing, or maybe you're going through something yourself, any kind of violence, or just need additional support, you can call our 24 hours, 7 days a week support line, or you can text Renew to this number here on screen, and learning more information about our services on our website. And that concludes today's presentation. If you have any questions, I am free to be here if that's okay with you, Professor. But other than that, thank you everyone so much for participating. I hope, although this might have been a lot of information in one sitting, that you can continue to have these conversations and think about what can I do to interrupt harm and support my community and my community members. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. And if you need these resources again, please let me know.
Jennifer, I just want to say thank you so much for presenting. You know, I've been teaching this class for 6 years now, and I typically have YWCA come at least every other quarter, if not every quarter, and it's a mixed bag. Like, I've seen the consent video with the tea, but you just brought like a different flavor, like a different energy. Like you showed clips that I've never seen, and just everything that you spoke to tonight. was invaluable. So we really, really appreciate it. I like everybody to give Jennifer a round of applause, a virtual clap, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much for that comment. It honestly means a lot. You know, like sometimes we do these presentations, workshops, and we don't often hear too much back. Just the thank yous at the end, and that's it. But thank you so much for that comment.
Is there a way I could leave like an evaluation, or do y'all have surveys y'all doing, or?
Yeah, I can send you a survey later tonight, or like right after this after we get off this call, I'll send it to your email.
Okay.
And y'all can send that through.
Okay, thank you again from the bottom of our hearts.
All right, thank
All
you so
right.
much. I'll leave my email in case anyone else needed it. .org. If you have any questions, want to continue these trainings, let me know. Again, you're also welcome to call our 24 hours, 7 days a week support line. Thank you, everyone. Oh, sorry, I think I sent that to one person. Let me see. There you go. Okay, I'm gonna head out now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
you take care.
You too. Bye.
Have a great day.
Okay, folks, I need you to stay on for about 10 minutes. We are gonna have an early class. Want to give you guys an extra credit opportunity. I'm bringing up the link right now.
Sorry, Professor, can I ask you something very quick?
Yes, go for it.
So actually I talked with the whole class, and then I was wondering if you would be able to do us a favor. Would you be able to change the due date for the smart book homeworks like to the like maybe 11:59 instead of 9:59?
Yes, I can do that. I think there was just a mistake on 2 of the chapters. But is it looking like it's
Actually, there is
9:59?
more, like they're all 9:59, I guess.
Oh
Okay,
yeah, that's a very good one. Because I always miss my homework because I always thought it's 11:59. So I always do before that, but when I submit it, it's overtime already. So I think that's something like kind of weird.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this week it was telling us we have like 4 hours, and then all of a sudden, like it just like for me, for example, it threw me out, and then I only had like 3 points in one of them.
Yeah, I was doing the chapter 6 one, and then I got like 72. I could get like 100.
Yes, I can fix that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I am not finding the documentary. I think they took it off of YouTube. Okay, this is on. Oh, now they're making you buy or rent it. Okay. All right, I'll try to find a different version of this that's free, and I'll send it. Yeah, no problem. I'll go in there. I'll go in there tonight or tomorrow morning, and I'll fix those chapters so it'll be due at midnight.
And then if you fix them, does that mean we have a second chance to do the ones that we missed for this week?
No, you won't, unfortunately. Give me 1 second, folks.
Professor Alexander, do you know if it's changed on on a past chapter to 11:59, if that resets the grade? Because one of them I finished just right after 9:59 p.m., but that cut off on Canvas and not the actual like McGraw-Hill site.
Yeah,
Do you know?
exactly. Same.
So what I've been asking students to do is if there is an error or if you feel like you finished it, screenshot that you've got to the last module or that you've got to that last question on that particular chapter. If you screenshot that and email that to me, then I'll make sure you get credit.
I emailed it to you like the day that I did that, but I didn't get the screenshot of it. But I did the whole course.
Can we screenshot the recharge? Because the recharge says that we finished. Okay.
Yep. And Ava, Nagar, I got y'all. I just have to enter it into The grade book.
Okay, thank you
'Cause
so much. Sorry about that.
we've been communicating via email. Ava and Nagar, we've been communicating email. So I understand y'all situation. You're gonna get credit.
Thank you.
Folks, don't try not to stress too much over this. I'm gonna change it to midnight. Try not to stress too much. I'm gonna waive one chapter that everybody misses. So if you, let's just say you completed 17 of the 18 chapters and you did all the other work, you're gonna get a good grade in this class.
Okay, perfect.
I know it's stressful because it's the unknown and you don't really know how I grade. But if I could see that you've emailed me and you've made an effort to do your homework, I'm not going to give you a low grade. I'm not one of those professors. But I know it's anxiety provoking when it's like you're trying to do the homework and it cuts off at 10 and it's supposed to cut off at midnight. So if that happened to you, just go ahead and send me an email. It does help if you could screenshot that you got to that. But for those of you that I've already been working with, or I've already received emails from you, I kind of understand your situation.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So for like the smart books, when it's asking some of the questions, I don't know if this is happening to other people as well, but like it'll say I get the answer wrong when I've typed it incorrectly, and I've like screenshotted a bunch of them and I've emailed it to you, and I'm not sure if that's happening to everybody else because it makes me take like 10 more questions after because it thinks I'm not understanding it. So I don't know if that's like something there's like I can change about that to like change it to multiple choice, but it like keeps prompting me that I'm getting the answer wrong.
Melissa, are most of your questions multiple choice, or are they all fill in the blank?
Most of them are fill in the blank.
Oh, that's interesting. Everybody else is having multiple choice, right? With some fill in the blank.
Yeah, I have a few that are more fill in the blanks, and then I have the same issue where I just forget to put an E, or I'll switch a letter or something, and then I have to do 10 more questions.
Yeah, I'd say it's like each chapter kind of varies for mine, what is more fill in the blank and what is more multiple choice. But I've also run into the like adding in a letter or forgetting a letter and it adds on more questions.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've like screenshotted it and I'll answer it like correctly and it says it's wrong. Like it's like, oh, the answer was sexuality and you put sexuality. But I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. Some people are saying little typos or leaving out a letter that could affect it. All right. I'm gonna call roll real quick. Is Kiera here? Kiera?
I'm here.
All right. Julianne.
Here.
Penelope.
Here.
Xavier. Al Brent.
Here.
Ashley Doe.
Right here.
All right, that
Here.
Melissa, Frank, I got you. Melissa, Carolee,
I'm here.
Priscilla,
Here.
Kang.
Here.
Kang. Alexis.
Here.
Alexis, Neil. Lena Kim.
I'm here for, sorry, Professor. I'm here.
Oh, Neil, is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
All right. Okay. Lena Kim. Is Lena Kim present? You might want to just unmute yourself for a couple minutes.
Here.
Is that Lena?
Yeah.
Alexia.
Here.
Okay, ZQ.
What is ZQ? Is it me?
What?
I'm sorry.
Is it Eleanor?
Last name Lee. I don't have my other.
Me. I'm here.
All right. Carla.
Here.
Kira Mendez.
Here.
Okay, I got Ava. I got Nagar. 2 Nguyen. Tu Nguyen. Yashada
Here.
or Dallas.
Here.
Sid.
I'm here.
Erica.
I'm
Erica.
here.
Erica Pan. Kaden. Got you. Ariel.
Here.
Audrey.
Here.
Vin. Vin Trung. Jasmine.
Here.
Jackie.
Here.
Lorden. Lorden Yi. And Jianfu. Jianfu Zhao.
Here.
Okay, everybody, you are dismissed. I will see everybody next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Happy
Bye-bye.
teacher
Have a great day,
appreciation week.
Professor. So I'm gonna email you again.
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye,
Professor,
everybody.
I want to make sure you got me. Like I was like muted and I was like here and then I forgot to unmute. So
I got you. I got
okay.
you. All
Thank you.
right.